Hello, this is Vicki Lemmond with Keller Williams Crystal Coast. I am the CEO of the Lemmond Group based in Morehead City. This is Kristen Goyette with Motto Mortgage.
Welcome, guys. This is Keeping It Real with Kristen, and I do have Miss Vicki Lemmond here with me today. Vicki is an award-winning realtor. She is the head of the Lemmond Group. She has a team of people that work with her, and they were number one this past year. They've also won the Triple Gold Award. They also won Top 20% Award out of 174 agents, and the Empire Builder Award, which was in recognition of their outstanding achievement. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. I feel like I need your autograph.
It was a great year.
Clearly. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself and your journey into real estate before we talk about how you got all these awards.
Okay, absolutely. So my initial dabble into real estate, as you would say, is started in 2006. We all know where that headed with 2008, 9, and 10. That was really part-time. That was just part-time, helping friends and family. And so actually in 2013, I let my license go. Never let your license go. And in 2018, of course, then I said, okay, I think I'm going to do real estate now. And so I had to go back to school. I had to go back and take the 75-hour class again, and of course, passed that and decided at the beginning of 2019 that I was going to just jump ship and jump right into real estate full time.
Right, and I had that same experience as far as just going from one thing to the next and jumping all in. And so you've been in now full time since 2019, and it's 2023, and you're a top producer, one of the top producers.
Yes.
That's awesome. You've been
Thank you.
killing it.
Yeah.
Way to go. So what's been your business strategy?
So well, obviously, I'm from Eastern North Carolina, from Lenoir County. And so just throughout the years, you've met so many different people that trust you. They trust you to take care of their friends and family, and, so lots of referrals. I would definitely say that probably 99% of my business comes just from my sphere of influence.
Excellent.
I was in human resources for 29 years, and in different capacities. From I was in manufacturing, food service distribution, commercial construction.
Wow.
And I mean, so many different things. And so probably have a database. I know I have a database of close to 4,000 people.
Wow.
So just having that number of people,
right.
And then them trusting you. I mean, I've even had people that I've fired in the past that have asked me to help them buy a house. So obviously
they
trusted
you're doing
me.
life right.
That's right.
That's awesome. So we talked before, and I also have an HR background. But what I find funny is I've not met one person who just went through school and was like, I want to be a realtor when I grow up, or I want to be a loan officer when I grow up.
Nope.
So, and I love that because we all come from different walks. I come from a medical background as a nurse, and then into human resources, and now into loan officer. So, it just, you never know what you're going to be when you
That's
fully
right.
grow up.
You don't.
You might start out here and end up there, and that's just awesome. So you are the CEO, like you said, of the Lemmond Group. You're a realtor. Your husband's a realtor.
Yes.
You're a real estate investor.
Yes.
And you're certified through Dave Ramsey on the business side.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Talk a little bit about that. So in 2010, my boss at the time had actually asked me to investigate a little bit more, as Dave Ramsey's financial piece. And because, why not add it as a part of your employee benefit package?
Absolutely.
Because your finances are actually what causes so much stress in your job and at home. And so I'm like, who is this Dave Ramsey person?
Oh, okay. So you hadn't even heard of Dave Ramsey.
I've never even heard of it.
Okay.
So then, of course, I investigated a little bit more, and it's like, okay, I said, I've got to go to Brentwood, Tennessee to find out a little bit more about this. Oh. And so anyway, I actually went through Financial Peace University through a church in Goldsboro. Okay. And I'm like, okay, I like this. Mm-hmm. And so then I taught it at my church in LaGrange. And then, of course, I'm still trying to investigate a little bit more. How do you bring this into a business?
Right.
And so then I found out that Dave Ramsey offered, it's called CORE, mm-hmm. C-O-R-E, CORE, which is the business side of Financial Peace University. So you go into the various businesses and you teach it to their employees, and actually wound up putting over 200 families through Financial Peace.
Wow.
Yes.
That's super impactful.
It is.
I mean, and for those of you who don't know what that is, you really need to take a minute to look up Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace University. And if you have any major questions, you could definitely reach out to Vicki, and
absolutely.
She could help you. So when you have, like, maybe even first-time home buyers come to you, maybe
mm-hmm.
who haven't spoken with a lender yet, are you kind of using that education?
Oh, I am.
Kind of take me on a little journey through that.
Yeah, so, it's a crucial conversation. Sometimes, you feel like mom and having those conversations, and just, without really getting into a lot of their personal business, because obviously the loan side is not my forte. That's for you.
Right.
But, you just talk to them a little bit about where their debts are, where's their credit score. I also have a strong conversation about, when you do get your pre-approval, just because you're pre-approved at $500,000 doesn't mean you need to be spending $500,000.
Exactly.
You need, to be at a place where you're comfortable.
Right.
So I'm definitely using the skills learned in Financial Peace and CORE to help people in buying a home.
That's awesome.
Sometimes I feel like I've taught more people out of buying homes than I have selling.
Well, you haven't talked too many out because you're a top producer.
Yeah.
But, I mean, maybe they're looking back and saying, I'm so glad I talked to her, and you can't get a house right now, but you can get one in the future. I mean, that's the conversation I have with people. Not that I don't say no. I just say, not right now. And here's what you need to do.
Yep.
And we can talk later. And, of course, I'll follow up with them. I need to go through the Dave Ramsey training. That might be very beneficial in my role. So that's interesting. You taught me something new today, Vicki. Yeah. So what's your primary service area for, I know realtors, because you're doing house showings and stuff like that, mm-hmm. sometimes some realtors don't really like to travel too far. Okay. So what about you?
Sure. So our primary locations are Onslow, Carteret, and Craven. And then, of course, I have people that are friends or family, and they're like wanting, me to come back to Lenoir County and sell their house or help them find a house. And, absolutely, I will do it.
Yes.
So as a North Carolina real estate agent, you're actually licensed in the state of North Carolina. But I also want to stay where I know, which is Eastern North Carolina.
Right.
So that I wouldn't dare sell a house in the mountains or in Charlotte.
Yeah, a market you weren't super familiar with.
Yeah, so.
But you'd list there for them, right? I'll list for you.
Well, I don't know about Charlotte, but definitely, Eastern North Carolina for sure. But yes, our primary, we're obviously based out of Carteret County, and we service Carteret, Craven, and
that's
and
a
Onslow.
very large service area.
It is.
Carteret County in itself is huge.
It is.
Then you add Craven and you got Onslow. That's a very large service area. So that's awesome. What would you say is the biggest challenge for you right now in your role?
So to me, I think the biggest challenge is education, because, you've got people that are listening to the media, and people are afraid to list their house, or they're afraid to buy their house. Buy their house because of, they're hearing about the rates. The rates are horrible. Mm-hmm. And right now, we are still below the average. From 1971 to 2023, the average was 7.75%. Right. And right now, we're still seeing rates, 5 and 6%.
Exactly.
So, they're like, well, I'm going to wait. It's like, well, if you're waiting for that 3%, I'm not sure you ever see it again.
Right. And that's been a frustration.
And same thing with sellers. I mean, they don't want to put their house on the market because they're afraid it's going to sit on the market too long.
Right.
Before they get that buyer.
And you just listed some houses this past week, and how long did they sit on the market?
Usually we're under contract in 3 to 4 days.
I mean, that's a hot market. I mean, that's amazing, because my husband and I have bought 4 different homes, and so we've sold 3, and we've had our very first one sat on the market for, I don't really remember exactly how long, but it was longer than 3 or 4 days. We would have been very excited for 3 or 4 days. And then our second house was on the market maybe a month. Mm-hmm. So, and then our last house was sold during the boom. So it was 30 hours. It was under contract. So that don't count. That's an outlier, right?
Right.
But so that's awesome. I mean, that's just showing that everybody's not listening to the media, but a lot of people are.
Right.
And I actually was talking to somebody on a former podcast about how the interest rates are really only pricing out about 10% of the population. So when you think about it on that scale, it's not that many people that it's pricing out, but yet so many people are not. They're just listening to the media instead of talking to somebody like you or me and just getting some real numbers and seeing what they can really do. But anyway, so in your many roles and hats and experience, do you have one particular transaction that's been extra meaningful?
I do, and it's my most recent transaction.
Okay, cool.
I had this gentleman contact me. He was a FSBO. He was a for sale by owner trying to sell his property on his own, and really had no experience. I mean, he's owned the 2 houses for years.
Gotcha.
And of course, people were coming by and lowballing and all this kind of stuff. And he actually reached out to me. And, we just started having the conversation. He's an older gentleman. And it was actually quite the tearful conversation when I went to talk to him, because his mindset he's in his last stage of life.
Oh.
And he is selling off his properties, and he's moving to a retirement community, in Western North Carolina. And just having that conversation was just, it was heartbreaking, really,
Right.
But, we go on through the conversation, and I tell him, the process. And I said, this is what we're going to do. I said, what we want to do is get the most amount of money for your property, as we can. And so, and we did. We went under contract on his first house within the coming soon period.
Wow.
No one had seen the inside of the house. I didn't even have pictures of him. We were under contract.
That is awesome.
And then he said, now tell me about how much money I'm going to get. So I told him, and he said, you're the best. You're the best.
Oh, that's so cute.
So, same, and then we put the next house on the market, and first weekend under contract.
Wow.
So we are still going. He's already closed on the first one, and we're going to be closing on the second one here in just about 3 weeks. And that's been very rewarding to be able to help him to move on to his next stage, which
is just as important as his previous stages. And because of you, he's going to have a great retirement life, which, I mean, he's probably been retired for a little while, but those retirement communities are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
he told me about the one that he was going to.
I was going to ask you, did he get a swanky one that's got all the bells and whistles? Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how many families did you serve this past year?
So we closed 46 this past year.
Nice.
Between 14 and 15 million in sales.
Right.
So,
wow. That's big time.
Yeah. We hoped more than that, but we actually closed 45. So.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Especially and you're only 3 years in.
Yeah.
We're going to the 4th year mark. That's awesome. Okay, so when you have a first-time home buyer come to you, or a FSBO, as you just said, that was for sale by owner. Okay,
yes.
Gotcha. First-time home buyer come to you, do you have any specific information that you try to share with each one, you know, because they are so fresh and new and they've never done this?
Right. So, of course, you know, first we talk about whether or not they're pre-approved, you know,
Right.
and then if they are, you know, great, then we move on to, okay, you know, these are the next steps. If they're not, we talk about the different types of loans. We talk about, you know, what would qualify, you know, such as a USDA, what, you know, how do you find a, you know, a USDA house or whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so we go through the process. And the biggest thing I tell them is you cannot ask enough questions in this process. This is the biggest expenditure that you may ever have in your life.
Yep.
Ask the questions and understand the process.
Absolutely.
So, of course, you know, we're explaining the due diligence fees. We're explaining the earnest money fees. We're explaining the due diligence period and what happens during that period. I mean, it's, especially with the first-time home buyer, it's a lengthy first meeting.
Right. And I know from the lending side, first-time home buyers, you know, I always say this is going to be a very tedious process. They're going to want more documentation than you have ever thought was possible, and maybe a DNA sample. I mean, it just depends on how, you know, how much money we're borrowing here. But what I also try to help people understand is put yourself in the lender's shoe. If you're giving someone this much money, whether it's $150,000 or even as low as, I mean, I've financed for $85,000. That's still a lot of money, up to $725,000. You want to make sure this person is capable of paying you your money back.
Right.
So to do that, they've got to turn over a lot of different stones and cross a lot of different T's and dot a lot of different I's. And it's just a lengthy process. It's not like buying a car, which that can be a little lengthy sometimes too, but it's not a quick process. And so I like when realtors take time to help them understand the process, because it's just not quick. There's a lot of lumps and bumps. There's a, you know, it's my job to keep the cart on the track, and it's your job to get it started.
Well, I even explain the emotions, you know, the up and down emotions of going through, you know, this process, because even experienced home buyers are going to go through the emotions of, should we really be doing this? You know? So whenever I have some of the first meetings, I find out the why. Why are you selling, or why are you buying? Right. You know, what is your why in this process? Because you're going to use it several times. Yeah,
you're going to need to remember that.
Yes.
And like you said, even if it's their second, third, or fourth time buying a house, it's still a process. And like you said, you do definitely experience a roller coaster of emotions, and it is scary. It's a good scary, but it can be scary.
Right.
But it's a good emotion. So you've had two different dips into the real estate world. So let's go back to the beginning, based from now. What would you say has changed since you very first thought about got into the real estate world?
Oh gosh, the biggest one definitely is technology.
Right.
Wow.
I can see
that. You know, we didn't have the social media back then.
Tell us about the process when you first started.
Oh my gosh, if I can even remember. Goodness, 2006. I mean, I'm trying to think. I actually believe that it was not a computer test. We took it on paper.
Right. Oh wow. Because I can remember Keith and I, we would go out to eat, and they had the stands outside of the restaurants or even the grocery store or wherever. You pulled it open and got you a little free, I call it a house book. I'm like, go get us a house book. I just have always loved to look and see what was for sale, even if I couldn't afford it or wasn't even wanting to buy. And now, I mean, everything's right there at your fingertip.
That's right. There are no house books anymore.
No.
You know, you used to, if you come into the office, you had these huge, books where you just look through the available houses. And now, by the time you print it on paper, it's already under contract.
And it's amazing, too. I don't know how it was back then, but just thinking about this now that we're talking about it, you know what's for sale everywhere now, and I do too. But back then, I only knew what was for sale here in Kinston. I don't even know if I knew what was for sale in LaGrange. So yeah, that's a good point. That technology has really changed a lot.
Yes, very much.
Even for lending, I mean, I wasn't in lending back then, but I bought houses back then, and now everything's done. I mean, I don't meet most of my clients until closing day.
Right.
I mean, I have a lot of conversations with them. I feel like I know them.
Right. Well, and we actually sell houses we sell houses virtually, especially being in Onslow County. Right. Because we have the military that are currently overseas or they're in California, and the first time that they come to the area is when they are, when the military moves them here.
Right.
So we're doing a lot of virtual showings and buying and closing before they ever, see the house in person.
That's trusting your agent.
We would have that is very trusting of the agent. And every time it makes me nervous, but they love it. So, but if I'm going to sell you a house, if it's not a house I would buy, or it could have problems or whatever.
Right.
If I wouldn't buy it, I'm going to tell you why.
Right.
And you may still say I still want the house.
Right.
But you're going to know that there's
you're helping them make an informed decision.
Right.
Yes.
And so when we do these virtually, we have to talk about the smells because they don't know.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, but you're showing them everything.
That is so interesting. I mean, I couldn't imagine buying a house virtually. I'm sure that's hard for you and them.
Yes.
But like you said, for our military folks, they've got to do what they've got to do so that when they get here, they've got a house to.
That's right.
And I mean, I've helped close some loans like that, but I'm on I call that the easy side. I'm not having to show stuff and make sure that they understand what they're buying. I feel like that would be a lot of pressure. So 46 sales last year. So how many were listings and how many were
last
buyers?
year? Majority, and I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but the majority were buyers last year.
Oh, wow.
Now this year it's the reverse.
You're getting more listings.
We've got 12 so far this year, and I think 2 or 3 were buyers. The rest of them are sellers.
Okay, so what's your goals? You and or the group's goals for 2023?
So we have 100 houses on our wall. So what I mean by that is, you take your average commission, and then what your gross commission income is, goal for the year, and then you divide it out by that, average commission, and that's how many houses you have to sell.
Okay.
So on our wall in our office, we have 2 poster boards, and there are 100 house stickies up there. So every time we close, we're writing in the address.
Oh, fun.
And we also have a thermometer on the wall. So, we actually have 2. We have a halfway point, and then we have our final goal. And then at the top of each thermometer, it says trip number 1 and then trip number 2. So we take a trip, based off of our numbers. So.
Well, that's super motivating and keeping your goal right in front of your face every day, which I think is important.
Right. So every day we have, it's called our DTD2s, and don't ask me what it means total. I can explain to you what it does, but what it is doing the database too. Okay. So you're taking 2 letters of the alphabet every week, and you're calling your database, and you just talk about general things. And
kind of like a cold call.
It is, your database? And you're doing it every quarter.
Okay.
And where you're touching base with someone every quarter.
Right.
So every day before I make those phone calls, I look at my wall. I got some empty houses up there. Yeah. So I start making those phone calls.
Well, that is super cool. Yeah. I love that. So you're doing 2 calls per day at least? No, you're doing, usually you're doing letters. 20 to 40 phone calls a day. Because you're saying your database is around 4,000. So you're picking like the letter G as in Goyette and L as in Lemmond, and you're calling those folks.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. So you're using those 2 letters of the alphabet during the week, and you're making the phone calls.
Can I put you on the spot and
sure.
Let's have a cold call.
All right.
Call me.
All right. Ring, ring.
Hello.
Kristen.
Hey, Vicki.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. So how are the kids?
The kids are good. Lacey and Lindsay have a soccer game this week. They're both in high school now and about grown. How are yours?
All right. Doing good. Doing good. So tell me, summertime's almost here. Y'all going on a vacation?
We are. The girls wanted Taylor Swift tickets, so they got some
Oh.
tickets for Christmas, and so we're going to spend a week actually for spring break, so a little bit before summer.
Yeah.
We're going to go to Florida for a week and
Okay.
hang out, and they're going to go to the Taylor Swift concert that Saturday.
Nice. Nice. All right. So how's work going?
It's going good, staying busy. You know how
Good.
the real estate world is,
Oh, yes.
ups and downs and all around.
Oh, yes.
But I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit,
There
as
you
they
go.
say.
Well, have you heard of anybody lately that are interested in buying down at the beach and buying or wanting to sell?
Well, we all want a beach house down
Yeah.
at the beach, don't we, Vicki?
That's right.
Okay, that's cool. So that's how you're getting into that.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. That personalization, remembering
Yep.
that, if they've got kids and where that's at. And
Yeah. So
Awesome.
the way we do that, it's FORD, FORD.
Okay.
It's family,
okay.
occupation, recreation, and dreams. So we didn't get into the
Awesome.
dreams, but
Oh,
you're
okay.
not going
Sorry, I cut you off.
You're
Is that
not
it?
no. You're not going to go through all four every time you make a phone call to somebody.
Gotcha.
You're wanting to choose a couple of them. A lot of times you can look at their Facebook page,
Right.
see what's going on their Facebook page in their life, and bring that up.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Good advice. I love that. So if you were not a realtor or the CEO of a group, what would you be doing?
More than likely, I would still be in human resources.
Okay, so you did love that world.
I actually did love the world. I was able to get out right before COVID.
Okay.
So I know with all my HR friends, it went crazy.
Right.
With just all the new regulations with COVID and all that. And I know it was not easy before. I cannot imagine going through it with COVID coming in. But my goal this year was the goal that I was going to retire.
Oh.
And I absolutely love what I do, and I have no set time to retire now.
Ain't that what it's all about?
I love it. So
Keep going until you find a job you don't want to retire
that's
from.
right.
That's awesome. And so before we wrap up our show today, tell us something fun or interesting about Vicki.
So, yes, I was thinking about this. What am I going to say? So obviously we have Facebook now that tells everything, tells the
Right.
story of what people are going through now. So the most recent years, people know what I have done. Things that people don't know about me is back in, trying to think, late 90s, early 2000, I owned a Porsche, and I actually raced Porsche.
Really?
I did. I won one race. I did. That was
Cool.
at in Charlotte. So I raced in Charlotte, and I raced at Virginia International Raceway.
And how fast were you going?
I don't even ask. I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay.
You
wow.
don't know when you're doing. I have no idea. But so yeah, that's.
Were you
that's
going
one
around
thing.
a track or just straight down?
So Virginia VIR is actually a road track.
Okay.
So it's not around, so it's like a road race, I guess you would
Gotcha,
say.
okay.
Yep. So let's see, I'll tell you a couple more things. So I'm terrified of heights,
Okay.
terrified. 2 steps on a ladder, I'm like a cat. I actually went zip lining in the jungle in Costa Rica.
Wow.
I will never do it again. But
You're like, if I ever
did
get to
it.
the other
I
end,
did it.
I'm
Yeah, I
done.
said I did it. But and also when we were in Costa Rica, we actually went out fishing. We caught 13 sailfish that
Wow.
trip, and I actually jumped in the Pacific Ocean with my sailfish to have my picture made. So, yep.
Well, aren't you
Not many people know all that, but
adventurous?
yeah,
You're adventurous.
Used to
be
be.
scared of heights.
used to be.
Used to be. Okay.
Those
Awesome.
were several years ago.
Well, that is awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today
Yeah.
and sharing all this wonderful information. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. If anyone's interested in working with Vicki Lemmond or the Lemmond Group, how
Yes.
can they contact you?
Absolutely. Give us a call at 252-515-2100.
And if you need a pre-approval to work with Vicki, give me a call, 252-560-8632. Kristen Goyette with Motto Mortgage Complete. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next episode.